when you have a strong WMS technology. Returns management, of course, you cannot ignore returns management in today's world, though it is a small portion, but it gives you a lot more customer connect. And cross-border. Cross-border is something which, if you have an ability, if your system is capable enough to kind of trace back all the information of the orders which are being shipped from different countries, and you're managing that, which is something very powerful, which you don't want to ignore. And that's why I would like to conclude with this, that your WMS system has to be a lot more powerful and insightful, and must give you a lot of real-time data. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhi. I think we'll get all the panelists to speak a bit first before we push down for Q&A. Yeah?
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me thank the organizers for inviting me to this session. And looking at all the presentations which we had gone through in the first part of the morning, and as we enter into the afternoon, we had a lot of technology partners sharing their presentation. And I actually come in from a user industry. As mentioned, I am taking care of logistics in an organization called as Dow Chemical. I also would like to give you a brief about what our organization is. We are the largest chemical corporation in the US, second largest in the world from the chemical industry. And from the supply chain point of view, let me give you a perspective. We have a team of close to around 5,000 people within supply chain in our organization. We ship close to 60 metric million tons of products every year, which probably boils down to 40,000 shipments weekly. So on a spend basis, Dow Chemical is a $50 billion organization globally, and our supply chain spend is close to $4 billion, which I would say is much more than many of the global organizations' turnover. Coming back to the subject of discussion, when it comes to aligning technology with the first mile and the last mile, to the warehousing and the transportation. The kind of industry we are into the chemical world, and we ship volumes. Within the country India, we are a $1 billion plus organization, and we move close to 250,000 tons of material in a year. And all this we have to do with the highest priority given to safety and compliance, because handling chemicals is a different ball game. And from the organization point of view, we are ready to forego a pound over safety. In logistics or supply chain, we have to strike a balance between the responsiveness and the efficiency. As many of the speakers earlier have said, that we need to manage cost, but also look at the service. And this is what becomes the most challenging part in our day-to-day operations. We operate through a network of warehouses within the country. The data visibility becomes one of the prime important things when we talk of optimizing our supply chains. Until and unless we have the data visible to us, how are we going to improve on our cost and service elements? This, I think, the data visibility for all of us is of extreme importance. If you would have been following the chemical industry in the last 2-3 years, and especially Dow Chemical, we have done a lot of, we have hived off certain businesses, and we have purchased certain organizations globally. And currently also we are in the process of the biggest chemical merger in the world. Network optimization becomes another challenge. And from the data point of view, we work on different SAP platforms. Connecting all those SAP platforms is also of prime importance when we talk of the analytics, data, and the optimization of our operations. Order of automation has been one area which we have been working on since last many years. I would rather admit that it is a challenge to fully implement order automation in the country as compared to, we have very high level of order automations in the rest of the world as compared to the country. We have portals available, developed in-house for our organization, My Account at Dow, where the customers can directly log in into their orders. It becomes visible to us so that we have minimum touch points in our entire order to cash cycle. We also make use of Alimica kind of products, which is like used by many of the industries. P2P services I would like to mention here because in the first part of the program someone mentioned procure to pay is a managed services which we especially focus on because these are back-end services and it very well connects with the technology. But the challenge in supply chain is the customer expectations. I think many of the user industry would probably agree to the customers are becoming more and more demanding. Warehouse management is one aspect, and the last mile delivery is, I would say, in India, the biggest challenge. The kind of demographics, the kind of the geography reach out we have, many a times we have to transport products more than 1,000 kilometers or 1,500 kilometers from the warehouse to the actual consumer. Trucking industry, as we all know, is fragmented. The truck leaves the warehouse, transit days being 3 to 4 days. When it is going to reach, we don't know. Where the driver takes the truck, difficult to track and trace. At least on the bulk delivery part, we have these systems enabled, and we started a pilot to put GPS on the trucks at the loading point and which is kind of surrendered at the unloading point. And I think we are working with my colleague here. So this is something we did because the track and traceability of our shipments was a major challenge. Until and unless we can control the anxiety of our internal customers and our end users, where the shipment is, when they are going to receive their material in the right form, is it delayed or is it coming on time, before time, OTIF and all these things matter to the customers. And internet, technology, availability of data plays a major role. So I think a lot needs to be done. We are doing a lot from our organization point of view. We need more technology partners. We need our service providers, the logistics service providers, the warehouse service providers, the transportation industry partners to push the envelope so that we remain safe, we remain compliant, and we are able to meet the responsiveness of our customers, keeping the cost in control.
I have a recommendation to Sumit, Venktesh, and Mradul. Even as you speak about where you guys come from, I think it's more important that we focus on challenges that currently confronts the industry, whether it's warehousing or networks or technology that drive them, and we want so that there's some kind of takeaway they have end of the day.
Yeah? Thank you very much, and thank you once again the organizers to call us here. Now, when Mr. Nambiar was addressing the people, addressing everybody here, and he mentioned about he went to a company, talked about solution and all the company, and the gentleman ahead said that this is my RFQ and this is what I want. We have got SLAs, we have got everything, and we would just deduct the cost now. Now, this is the scene which we actually face every day when we talk about customers. And when we talk about changing the industry, when we talk about how logistics has been changing, how transportation has been changing, what is coming in last mile, what technologies are coming in first mile. I come from a company, we work towards automating it, we work towards digitalizing it, optimizing it. And I would like to, as asked, I would talk about more challenges, what we have seen are there in the industry. And yes, there are companies, and today we talk about last mile being completely automated or manless, doing through drones and all. That's good to have. However, there are practical challenges which are there across the first mile to the line haul movement of the mid mile and the last mile, which has still not been addressed. Uh, as we talked about Dow Chemicals, right? And we work with a lot of manufacturing companies, a lot of e-commerce companies. We talk about visibility, right? Optimization comes later. Most of the companies we talk about are talking about are trying to reach, trying to optimize their movements and say that, hey, how can we optimize the last mile, first mile, wherein they are right now not even able to digitalize them, not able to get the visibility also on them. So they don't know what happens once things move out of their warehouses, things or the delivery by people moving out of their location. They don't know where they are, how they are, what time they're reaching, when will they reach, and there's a constant there is complete unknown, there is a factor of unknown there which has not been addressed yet, though there has been technology which has been there, but the implementation has not been that successful for a simple reason: the approach had not been of solutioning, approach has been on selling, and from the customer side the expectations mismatching had always been there. Now when we talk about technology implementation in different industries and when we talk about technology implementation across different sectors, yes, after e-commerce boom in 2013, everybody is got aware. The customer expectation changed, and the last mile is the one which is last mile. The first mile is the one where we are seeing more and more automation. People trying to implement route optimization, route planning, and that's something what we do. And we have been. I'll give you an example of two clients where one of being a very unsuccessful implementation overall. And I know a lot of companies would not like to talk about that, but it's something what is the reality of the industry. And one being a very successful. And what was the change and what was the difference between the user expectation and the way it was implemented? Uh, Talking about the successful one, the primary thing was the initial from the start, the client knew, and we also set the right expectation that, hey, we are sitting at zero right now. We have no visibility, we have no digitalization, nothing is there. And we'll take a gradual approach towards it. We'll look at 6 months down the line what we have to reach, where we have to reach. And we were able to digitalize their operations from the time the goods are being manufactured to the time it reaches to the shelf or the last customer, last mile. Not only digitizing, optimizing it and bringing it down, the overall total cost, bring it down to approximately 11% across all the miles, which took around 9 months, took a lot of solutioning, took a lot of business process mapping at customer end, at our end, wherein we also have been in a situation where customer said, this is what I want it next day, I want it tomorrow, and I want, right now I'm a zero, but I want it to be 100 on the first day itself. And those were the recipes of disaster, because though we tried to implement, but the expectation mismatch was there and it never got implemented. And I know those customers still struggling with that. So rather than talking about more and more technology which are there, you talk about route optimization, we do route optimization, big data optimize, how you can use the big data in optimizing the routes and all. A lot of companies are working towards in silos and working on last mile or on the first mile side, not working on the mid miles. Wherein what we have done as a company, we have devised a solution where we actually can provide an integrated solution across all the miles, are able to optimize the different legs and digitalize different legs for the customer. And not only do route optimization, because route optimization is something which a lot of companies talk about. One of the few reasons why you won't be able to achieve is geocoding. Now we talk about address structures in India or abroad or other countries, other than the Western, let's say you talk about North America and Singapore, other countries. It's a problem. It's a problem. You don't know how the structures are and the structures. How could we how could you use big data, how could you use machine learning to optimize that level of ensuring that the addressing structure improves, how those things has improved, and the route optimization actually is able to give you results, is something what as a company we are working on and we have been able to show results at. And that's something which we probably need to look at as a company as well, and the users as well, that how they can work parallelly towards the organization, use the technology which are available in the market, go for more on the integrated approach than using single technology for a 1 mile, and implement it across the, and work with the partners to implement it for in a phase-wise approach to achieve desired results as well. Yep.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Venktesh, and I am from Stellium Consulting. Stellium is a supply chain consulting company. Coming to the subject, as we all know, logistics performance is not just for improving the organizational bottom line and top line. It is also about economic growth, poverty reduction, and overall well-being of a national competitiveness. I mean, well-being of an indicator of a national competitiveness. If you look at our logistics performance, I mean, World Bank publishes a report called Connecting to Compete, and if you look at our logistics performance, as per that report, 2016, India was around 39th position. And our GDP, as per the nominal GDP, we are 7th, and real GDP, we are 3rd. Why I'm talking about GDP and logistics performance index? Because there is a great correlation between GDP and LPI index. And India is the only country which is out, in terms of that normal curve that is drawn there. Now, if you look at our total spend on logistics, it's 14.5%. Average spend is about 10%. Similar countries with the equivalent GDP size is doing somewhere around 8%. So we have about 5.5% to 6% improvement that we can take. There is a lot of money in terms of logistics improvement that is there on the table. And out of that, about 40%, I believe, is just in the last mile, or as I say, primarily if I look at the traditional retail, I call it extended last mile, which is from your consumer products warehouse to the distributor, all the way to the traditional retail stores. Now, there are three different types of challenges that I look at that we have. The first is structural challenges. Now, if you look at India, we have somewhere around 12 million retail outlets. And I'm just going to talk about primarily traditional retail and from the traditional retail perspective. We have about 10, 12 million retail outlets. Any consumer products company, even delivering, reaching out to 4.5 million outlets, has somewhere around 10 to 15 million monthly touch points, shipment touch points. That's a very high number of touch points, unlike any other country that you will have. It's a very high number of touch points. So first, the structural challenges, where the very high number of touch points that we have, very high fragmentation in the industry. We already heard about 85% of the industry being 1 to 5 trucks ownership, and same in the warehousing side, a very, very fragmented industry that we're talking about. Second kind of challenge that I see is around the policy aspects. Thankfully, GST is coming in. GST itself is likely to improve or reduce the number of kilometer miles by somewhere around 11%. So it's a huge benefit that as a country that we are going to get out of this. Other logistics, other policy-related challenges, lack of any integrated logistics policy. India the government has been working on NILP, National Integrated Logistics Policy, for almost last 10, 12 years, but we don't have an integrated logistics policy yet, and the connectivity between the different modes of transport is extremely poor. And if you look at India, has 63% of the truck movement, which is very, very high. I mean, it's abnormally high, and cost of movement in truck transportation is absolutely much higher than if you look at rail transportation and water transportation, even though we have a very high coastline. So that's the policy challenges. And third is in terms of the process and the technology adoption and efficiency that we have heard. There are a lot of room over there, a lot of room to improve. I think as a country we need to look at all three legs together to improve, and then only we can sort of get to somewhere around 10% mark, which is going to release tremendous amount of, if you just look at our size of GDP, and if you release 5% from there, and if you divide that between the logistics provider, the CPG companies or the consumer brand companies, and the end consumer, it's a huge amount of money that everybody is taking. Tremendous amount of money going to be released in the system. Coming to some of the last